So everyone, of course if you're going into battle in either the Mirrors game mode or either the PvE mode, you need to have your strongest Memoria with you. And of course before I go into and tell you what some of the great Memoria and some of the best Memoria in the game are, I want to make sure that you guys can identify great Memoria in the future, so I don't need to do a video like this every 2 weeks. So first up with the basics, we have a character, and that character will be able to equip up to 4 Memoria, depending on how many slots they have. They can equip at maximum 2 active and 2 passive Memorias. Of course, every single Memoria that you equip increases your HP, while the active Memorias additionally increase your defense, while your passive Memoria additionally increase your attack stat. Of course, each Memoria also has a buff that comes along with it, either that's one that's just passively active, or one that has to be activated and then is active for like 1 turn or maybe even up to 3 turns. Of course, when you get a memo, it will be a basic memo that can only go up to a certain level, but you can increase the level that the memo can go up to by limit breaking it. You limit break a Memoria by putting the same Memoria into the enhancement together with the Memoria you want to limit break, and by doing that, once you actually reach limit break 4, we get the max limit break, or MLB as people call it. And when you reach MLB, the buff that the Memoria provides will be increased in strength. Of course, even if you're not going to maximum break a Memoria, you can still limit break it, so you can just add more levels to it, and every level that you add to a memo by feeding other memos to it will make it so that you get more stats, so more HP, if it's an active, more defense, if it's a passive, more attack. So how do we actually now try to figure out how the best Memoria even look like? So the most important thing that I've also mentioned in a lot of other videos is that attack is pretty much the most important stat in the entire game, in both Mirrors and in PvE. So what are some of the best Memoria that give us attack are? Of course, one of the most obvious one is I Made Friends that we have right here, which gives attack up 4. And I can already tell you that if you want to look at some really great attack up Memorias, you'll be looking at attack up 4 at least at maximum break, or if you're not at maximum break, attack up 3, because when you go to maximum break, it will usually increase by 1, so it goes from attack up 3 to attack up 4, and you want to have at least attack up 4. What else it has doesn't really matter too much. What we're really looking for is the attack. Of course, another one that is really great is the Cubinite. Of course, the Cubinite is a bit of an anomaly with what I just said, which that when you maximum break this one, it actually goes from attack up 2 to attack up 5. But this one was also a Memoria that everyone got for free during an event, and I hope you all got this at maximum break, otherwise you're going to be very sad, because this is one of the probably 3 best Memoria in the entire game, and you can't get it anymore now. Sorry guys, there's also not going to be a rerun for this. I'm double sorry guys. So these are some of the Memoria. Of course, one of the most ridiculous Memoria in that sort of sense is, by the way, I have here the Memoria selection screen, and of course probably the one that everyone knows about is the Soul Strikes in Space Between Light and Dark. So of course the Soul Strikes in Space Between Light and Dark gives also attack up for 20%, but on top of that another attack up 25%, one of the best Memoria in the entire game, but mostly for Mirrors, because in Mirrors you can be sure that you're going to be at maximum health when you have to fight the bad fight. But moving on, now that we've looked a bit at attack up, and I've not looked at every single attack up memo. Of course, if you know some attack up memos yourself that you see lying around, all of them work. But what else is there apart from just attack up buffs? Well, there are also damage buffs. All damage buffs can be things like something that says damage up, or something that says damage increase, or something that says blast up. All of these are damage modifiers that also help you a lot, although in Mirrors, these modifiers won't help you that much. They still help pretty good, but not as much as attack up ever will. But in PvE, the thing about PvE is in PvE, enemies don't have that much defense. So against enemies with low defense, attack up and something like damage up is rather similar in damage. So what is there in damage up Memoria? Of course, the one that probably everyone knows is My Bible, which gives a damage increase 25%, so damage up 4, rather damage increase. It actually matters if it says damage increase or damage up, but I'll get to what it actually means later. Some of the other ones that are there, we have, for example, Walking in a Entwined Path, which also gives quite a bit of damage increase. This one cannot be limit broken right now, so you'll actually be stuck with this one at limit break 1, which sucks. But that's just one of the things that you can do. I think one of the ones that came up recently, this is not a damage memoria, this is an attacker memoria, but I didn't mention this earlier, but I guess I have to mention it for NA specifically. I know some people from the JP server might watch this as well, but if you're playing this on NA, this one also exists, which gives attack up 25%, but you can't get it anymore, I'm sorry. So that's it for just a few damage increases. I guess if we're looking at blast as well, there's also, where is it? The Onwards to the Light Memoria that gives a bit of blast damage up. Blast damage up is really good if you have a lot of it, but if you only have a little bit of it, you might want to instead look at something like damage up instead, because damage up and blast damage up are basically the same thing. It's just that blast damage up only works for blast, but in return you get a bit more of it. Of course, if you have a character, even if you have a character that has 3 blast discs, sometimes you're just not going to draw those blast discs, and then the blast up is going to be useless. Also something that I need to talk about later when it comes to blast up or red buffs in general. So these are some of the important standouts, but in general, look out for really high numbers like the Roman numerals on the damage buffs. Prioritize attack up, especially for mirrors. In mirrors, you want to have as much attack as possible. In PvE, against like outside of mirrors, you still want to have as much attack as possible, but it's okay to mix in some damage buffs, especially if you can find something that has a lot of blast damage up. This one, not so much, but I think there's some other Memoria that give 50% up that we don't have yet. But just in general, a lot of blast up can also be fine if you are running blast gorillas, which you probably should, eh? So that's it for basics with the passives. What is there for actives? Well, among actives, the best one is, of course, Meteor Rain. Everyone knows Meteor Rain. Easily the best Memoria in the game, in my opinion. Maybe not easily, but the best Memoria in the game, in my opinion. What does it do? It does attack down and defense down against all enemies, and quite a lot of it. These are high numbers. Attack down 10 and defense down 9, which is ridiculous because, of course, attack is the most important stat in the entire game. So just very quickly, why is Meteor Rain so good? Lowering defense means that in mirrors, where enemies will have a lot of defense, you're suddenly crippling their entire defense, meaning you're dealing a lot more damage. This reduces defense by 45%, but depending on how much defense your enemies have, you might be doing more than 45% more damage. So that can be absolutely amazing. But outside of that, outside of mirrors, the defense debuff is not too important in PvE, because like I said, in PvE, enemies don't have that much defense, so lowering their defense a little bit doesn't really do much. But the important part is the attack down. Attack down on every single enemy, 50%, is actually absurd. Especially because if the enemy has a lot less attack than you have defense, the enemy will do almost no damage. So an enemy that might hit you normally for like 10k damage, with Meteor Rain, suddenly might hit you for like 1k damage. It sounds ridiculous that the attack might go down by this much just with a 50% debuff, but with the interplay between attack and defense, that's exactly what might happen sometimes, and that is what makes Meteor Rain so absolutely amazing. Even on some of the toughest challenge quests on the Japanese server, the EX challenges that you might have seen, Meteor Rain is absolutely absurd and basically gives you a free turn every time you use it. It also has a really short cooldown of 5 turns. And the amazing thing is, since you can take 5 Megokai with you into battle, if you have 5 maximum break Meteor Rains, or rather if you have 4 and your support also has 1, you can use one of these each turn, which basically makes every single PvE quest that I know of completely trivial. I don't think there is a single PvE quest that might work against this. I guess there are some PvE quests where enemies dispel their own debuffs, but even then the defense down is going to be great, so yeah. Overall, absolutely amazing Memoria, so if you have this one, definitely take it. If you only have like 4 of those and you're like, okay, you always need to remember, of course, when you maximum break a Memoria, the the buff that you get, like the attack down and the defense down, increases, but it only increases by a little bit. And since the active is the most important part, like of course it gives stats as well, but with an effect as powerful as Meteor Rain, and especially since actives don't give attack, the level on them doesn't matter too much, and maximum breaking this one is also not too important. The cooldown is really nice to actually get down by 1 more turn, but if you only have like 3 or 4 of these, just keep them all at limit break 1. Like don't actually limit break them together, just keep them all at limit break 1 and just throw them around, give every single one of your characters one of these, and just, if you are in a tough challenge quest, just have one of these active each turn. and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be really great. In PvP, like I said, in Mirrors, the defense down debuff is also really amazing. The attack down can also be really amazing. And the important aspect also for Mirrors is that because it has 5-turn cooldown, this one will be active as soon as possible in Mirrors, which is turn 3. No Memoria, as far as I know, can be active sooner than turn 3, unless Skill Quick is a thing, but that's more for Japanese spirit enhancement. But yeah, outside of Skill Quicken, the fastest you can get Memoria out in PvP is 3 turns, and this is a 3-turn Memoria, so it's also the best in that aspect. Moving on though, looking at other actives, what other actives might you want to take a look at? It's not really too clear-cut which actives you absolutely need to have. Of course, with passives, you just want to have as much damage as possible in pretty much every single aspect, with only very slight exceptions that I might get to. But with actives, it's more of a whatever you need, you just take with you, and it might depend on the quest, it might depend on your characters, might depend on your playstyle. It can be very different what kind of actives you want to actually take with you. Now, if you want to have an all-round set, then you basically just go for the same that I just mentioned with the passives. You prioritize attack up. For PvE, you might take some damage ups, some blast ups, all of those. But something that you need to keep in mind that I said earlier about red buffs, every buff that has a red symbol. So if we see, for example, the regular attack up buff has a red symbol, every red symbol buff only stacks to 100%, and it stacks additively. So if you have a 50% attack up and you get another 40% attack up, you'll be at 90% attack up. If you then get another 40% attack up, you will hit the cap and you will stay at 100% attack up. You will not go over the cap. Meaning that especially when it comes to blast up, you need to be really careful. I have seen some characters, or some people rather, with characters in Mirrors or in PvP where I see that they have multiple blast up Memoria. I've even seen someone who has 4 blast up Memoria on an Ashley, thinking that's amazing. Like, Ashley only uses blast up. Definitely I use all the blast up. That's actually really terrible, absolutely terrible, because with one of those you're gonna be halfway towards the cap, and with the second one you're already over the cap, and the other 2 are useless. So you throw into the mix that you also have some characters that give attack blast up connects, like Nanaka gives like an 80% blast up, and you're starting to realize, wait a second, maybe second blast up is actually really terrible because you hit the cap almost instantly. Like, especially if you have someone like a Nanaka connect or an Ashley connect, which gives like 80% blast up. I think Tsuruno gives like 75% blast up. It's almost not necessary at all, and I would say it's definitely not necessary at all to put any blast Memoria on top of that. So that's something to look out for, guys. If you guys want to play blast, be aware of your team, be aware of the sources of blast up that your team has, and especially if you play Ashley, like the duo Ashley team, I would say don't actually take any blast Memoria with you because you're gonna overcap instantly. So yeah, that's just a little something to watch out for with the red buffs. But yellow buffs, is this a yellow buff? Yeah, this is a yellow buff. Yellow buffs don't have caps. Well, actually, in theory, they have 300% caps, but you're not going to reach 300% with each anyway. But in theory, the yellow ones don't have caps, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to reach the cap with probably the red damage up anyway. But leaving caps aside, like I said, really just look at what your team needs. For example, let's say you have a team that uses Magia a lot and you think to yourself, I want maybe some Excel up so I can get more MP. Maybe I want some Magia up. Now, you could just look for every single Memoria in here, or you can come to the Discord and ask, hey, what Memoria gives Magia up or Memoria gives Excel up. That would be quite a bit of work, and you have to find people that can actually tell you that off the top of their head. But the best way of doing all of that, and this is probably the most important thing to take away from this entire video, if you need a Memoria that does a specific thing. Also, for example, you go into a quest and you need an anti-bind Memoria like this one. You might think to yourself, how can I find these? Well, you go to the skills and status effects page on the wiki that I'm going to link in the description below as well. And if you need anything from in here, you can then just click on the specific effect and you will see a list of everything that provides this effect. For example, we can go down here and let's say, for example, you need something that negates bind. So you click on this and it shows you every single source of this. Ignore spirit enhancement, we don't have that. But you see some Memorias down here and you see these are all the Memoria that give spirit enhancement. They are also color coded. The blue ones are limited. The blue ones you cannot get all the time, just for specific events. The red ones are unlimited. Did I just say limited or unlimited for the blue ones? The blue ones are limited, you can't get them all the time. The red ones are unlimited, you can always get these. So we see the only really good one, when I say good because it's 4-star, it's Everlasting Light, which gives anti-bind and a bit of regen, not too important. We can also look at this one, for example. What does this do? Oh, defense of 15%, that's actually quite alright. And the green one is a personal Memoria. So if this one is Nagisa's personal, which I can tell you off the top of my head, does anti-bind, anti-burn, and endure once, which is the absolute middle finger to Mummy, because this is exactly what Mummy's Connect and her Magia does. A lot of damage and bind and burn. I like that this is the Nagisa personal. Anyway, so that's basically all of that there is really to know about selecting Magia, so selecting Memoria, sorry. So to go over it once again very quickly, for passives, prioritize attack. Specifically for PvE, you can throw some damage ups in there as well. You can maybe throw some blast up in there as well, especially maybe in the future when we get better blast up Memoria. For actives, you can also go by the same ideas of just getting attack and damage, but keep in mind that red buffs cap at 100%. So for example, having 2 active Memorias that both give attack up might make you overcap very quickly. So that's also another reason why you should get a good balance between a damage up, damage modifiers like blast, damage up, damage increase, etc., and attack up. Otherwise, if you need anything specific, just always look at the wiki and the page that I linked below and just find whatever you need and pick a 4-star Memoria if possible. Otherwise, a 3-star Memoria that has this effect. And that's basically all that you need to know. If you have any specific question, put them in the comments below and I will answer them. Thank you guys for watching, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.